Hello.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going?
Good. Is that real?
No, it's a glitch.
Oh my god, I'm gonna kill that dog that doesn't shut up. All right. My dumbass did watch the Map of Tiny Perfect Things.
What was that? How did I miss that? What was that?
It was either on Amazon streaming, Prime, or Netflix. I think it was Amazon.
Who's
I
it?
just write nobody I know. You probably would know the names. I'd have to go look them up. It's basically a Groundhog Day movie.
Huh.
But
Yeah, I totally forgot about it.
all I do is go to the numbers and I write them out ahead of time,
Yeah.
and then hope that you're going to pick them. And then I try to look back at our Facebook chats too. But
I constantly am forgetting what movies they send me and what movies they don't. So it's always a crapshoot.
no, that's fine. Silk Road was one I was going to write down, but I wasn't sure. What do you have? Test Pattern and The Blackout.
Yeah, The Blackout will be available tomorrow, as will Ruby in Paradise, which is really fucking good. Even though it was made in 1993, it's getting a re-release for reasons. And I'm going to talk to the director this week, but it's so good. It's like, I think it's Ashley Judd's first movie.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why they're re-releasing it, but they are. So
that's cool. Well, Nomadland comes out, so that'll be fun to talk about.
Yeah, that's a really good movie.
And I think the big Netflix movie is Behind Her Eyes. I don't know what that is, but
no, off the top of my head, I don't know what that is.
Okay, cool.
Is someone antagonizing the dog?
He's fucking a baby. It's the worst thing ever. I don't
many
know.
reasons why I don't have pets.
Or kids.
Or kids.
They go hand in hand.
Life win.
It's like that Mark Maron bit where he runs into a guy with friends, with a wife and kids, and all the guy does is complain, and then he goes, "How you doing, Mark?" He goes, I think I dodged a bullet on this one." Oh, all right. I'll send a text down just to say, "Hey, can someone shut the dog up?"
Give him a treat or something. Some peanut butter. There you go. That'll take care of it. Can you give dogs peanut butter? I think you can. I don't know.
Yeah, my wife gives. I hope not, because my wife gives it to him every morning.
We're the hippest podcast in the world when we're talking about Paul Mazursky movies. The kids are going to go nuts for this show. For this week and next week. It's just weird. These weird little connections keep happening. I don't know. Like, I didn't add them. I didn't add the Mauritanian. I don't know if it's in theaters. I watched it. But Jodie Foster's in that this weekend with Silence of the Lambs. And you know what else she did, trivia-wise? She was, her first gig was on the TV adaptation of Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice.
Oh, that's right. She was the kid. I forgot about that. I did read that. So, okay. Do we need to put that movie on the show? What's it called?
The Mauritanian, we can. It's not available to stream yet. It's in theaters.
How do you spell it?
Mauritannian. But we can hold off on French Exit if you want. That one's only in New York and Los Angeles.
I don't care. I just got to get the pictures together. Hold on real quick. All right, so
like 10 people have seen French Exit. Me and 10 other people. riveting YouTube content.
Yeah. That's okay. I'll get over it. All right, so this one, that one. Oh, God damn it. Doop, doop, doop. We'll go with To All the Boys, Map Movie, X Threesome, Bob and Carol, Silence of the Lambs, King Ralph, Cadence, and Nothing But Trouble. Okay, perfect. All right. I think we're ready to record then.
All right.
Let me hit the magic button and then we can go. See, the battery looks good. Okay, here we go. And go. Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, Everyone's a Critic podcast.com, or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. You can check us out on YouTube. We're streaming live either Sunday mornings or Monday nights. Right around 9 a.m., 9:30 on Sundays, about 7, 8 o'clock on Mondays, Central Time, that is, p.m. If you want to watch us there, we change it quite frequently. I should really put it on social media, but I don't.
Because we're great at this.
Well, we're still
marketing
learning.
Is our strength.
We're still learning. Yeah, I'm an accountant, not a marketer. But yeah, so we are on YouTube. If you want to click on the bell to get notifications when we're live or when a new episode drops, you can do that. Or you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. We'll try to read reviews. We haven't had one in a while, so we'd love to start doing that again. Then patreon.com/Patreon, the best way to help support the podcast. Our bonus episode just went live, and I totally forgot. I sent it live on Valentine's Day. I just figured it'd be fun to release I Spit on Your Grave on Valentine's Day.
All that work we put in to not be snarky about this movie.
I'm not sure I even recognized that it was Valentine's Day when I did. I had to have, though, because I would have waited longer otherwise. I had to have known. All of a sudden I saw Sean posting it on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, it must be out. My wife's like, hey, it's Valentine's Day. I'm like, oh. I'm watching threesome swinger movies this week. But yeah, we are. But we're gonna hopefully record one next week. That's the plan. So that'll be strictly to Patreon for probably longer than I Spit in Your Grave was. The reason that one got released quicker was just due to the fact that we were given free stuff and we had people involved, and I wanted to get that one out. But we will wait a little longer on the next one. And it is all A24 related, our top 24 A24 films of all time. Josh is going to join us.
Should drop on Patreon on February 24th if all goes well.
That's the goal. Yeah, and we're already working on our March one too. So we're going to keep this going regularly.
That's quite an idea we've got going for that one.
I don't even fully know yet. I just know it looks like something I can't wait to look at. I haven't watched the trailer you sent me yet.
It's going to cost us money to do it, but I'm in. I'll spend the money for it.
That's what Patreon's for.
Yeah.
Gotta spend money to make money. And then we have TeePublic. If you go to teepublic.com and search Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast or Critics Pod, I believe you can search that as well. Or go to ihatecritics.net and click on the upper right-hand corner and get some podcast merch. I'm not wearing anything today, just polo, unfortunately.
And no pants. Work. That was weird.
Nope, I can't stand out again. But yeah, Otherwise, we can jump right into the episode. We have a lot to cover this week, so there's not really any news other than the Zack Snyder stuff, which Josh isn't on the podcast anymore. So.
Yeah. I did watch that trailer. It's exhausting. Don't even get me started. It's just I felt like the trailer feels like it's 3 hours long. And what's the movie? 4 hours? Good Christ. I felt like I needed a nap when the trailer was over, trying to keep track of all everything that's supposedly happening there.
I'm all for them going back to sad Batman and sad Superman and all that good stuff. And the Joker's in it. That's the big news of the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Don't forget Granny Goodness. Didn't you know Granny Goodness, the legendary character Granny Goodness?
I didn't watch it.
You don't even know who that is.
Nope.
That's a real character. That's a character name they gave to somebody, and she's a villain.
Not in Lego Batman. It's actually in a real one.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to our new movies, and we'll start with the one in the theater, The Mauritanian.
The Mauritanian is based on a true story about a guy who was living in Mauritania. He was a seemingly pretty normal guy. One day he's at a wedding for his family. The next day, that night, the CIA rolls up. They throw a black hood over his head, and he's gone. He disappears. He's gone for 2 years, and nobody knows why, where he went, what happened. It turns out that his crime was that his cousin was a close associate of Osama bin Laden and had made a phone call to him prior to September 11th using bin Laden's sat phone. And the CIA had a log of that, obviously. And when they found his number on there, they just simply assumed right away that he's a terrorist, grab him, take him in. They throw him in a hole for 2 years. They torture him. Nobody knows where he is until 2004, when a couple of ACLU lawyers finally managed to get into Guantanamo, through agitating through the media. And the lawyers are played by Jodie Foster and Shailene Woodley. And the opposition lawyer is Benedict Cumberbatch, who was specifically chosen. He's a military lawyer. He's specifically chosen because one of his closest friends was the pilot who was piloting the plane, the first plane that hit the World Trade Center. So he's got a personal stake in it. And he was chosen specifically because his commanders believed that he would do anything that they asked him to do in order to get a conviction, and that he wouldn't question their motives. And it turned out that he was actually a real lawyer who really cared about the law, and that becomes a very important part of this story. This guy did nothing, Bob. He did nothing. He took a phone call from his cousin. He was thrown in a hole for 2 years. He was tortured nonstop for longer than that. Thrown into Guantanamo without a trial. And the horrors enacted upon him for that period of time is it's a stain on the soul of American justice, on just our system of government in general. And I know that we're all very upset. We were all very upset about September 11th, and we had to follow all the leads. And we had to we wanted revenge, but the things that we did, that our government did, that we watched our government do, this movie is a reckoning of that in a way that is very important, very necessary, and that no one is going to pay any attention to whatsoever. Because this isn't a sexy movie. There's nothing sexy about it aside from people who like Benedict Cumberbatch. The movie is incredibly good. It's a crime movie. It's a courtroom movie. Jodie Foster's incredible in this movie. And the lead performance by Tahar Rahim as the real life guy. He as this guy who really he really went through this. His book is out there. It's called The Mauritanian. It tells exactly what happened to him. It's horrific. And everybody's gonna ignore it. We're just gonna pretend we never did any of this and just go, well, September 11th, what are you gonna do? pay this guy a couple $1,000,000, maybe. I don't know. Do something. We took this guy, threw him in jail, tortured him for years. Didn't even threaten. They threatened to torture his mother to get him to admit that he was a terrorist. And he wasn't. He wasn't a terrorist.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Call.
You're right. It's going to be ignored. And the people who do see it, or the people who know about it but don't see it, will write it off to like liberal mumbo jumbo, which is not even relevant. That's like a throwaway. That's not even a fair statement. But I mean, people have what they experience, and they don't have to. I mean, they just look at 9/11 from a distance on their TV screen, not even that far away,
right?
And they get mad. And you're right. They say, "Well, 9/11. What are you going to do?" They don't know the difference between this and somebody who's innocent. They don't know how far it goes. I mean, they don't know any of that stuff, and nor do they want to know. And it's frustrating. But I don't know what you do to reach those people. I mean, they don't have to know. There's nothing that makes them have to pay attention to something like that. And I don't know. I'm glad it exists, though.
I mean, we enact horrors on our own shores that we turn a blind eye to, and people find a way to justify. People. I mean, you even just when you look back just last year, George Floyd. I mean, people. Well, sometimes you got to put a knee on a guy's neck. What? No, you don't. But people will say it. People will believe it. Hey, well, one innocent guy tortured for a couple of years. Hey,
Yeah. A kid at my daughter's school. He didn't do it. I don't know. Somehow she got a Snapchat. I told her to unfollow this kid immediately. But he had like knee pads like George Floyd's face or neck or something like that. And I was just like, that's just insane. But what happens is, you get past the horrors quick and you start arguing over something else.
Yeah.
And most people don't mean to shift the subject. They just can't, they start thinking of other things besides the horror of that. And then you get caught up in a battle of semantics. And it's like, well, hold on. No, I agree. Yes, you shouldn't do drugs. Yes, you should do, whatever. But you don't knee on someone's head for 8 minutes and however long. That's just insane. But I don't know.
You look at the ways we just so willingly abandon our own humanity, and I'm not immune to this. I was in conservative talk radio right after September 11th. Granted, I was the left side of that, but still, I was there and I abetted that entire thing, and I didn't do anything about it. So I'm part of the problem too.
Well, we're all part of it. I mean, we haven't talked about anybody, Armie Hammer, Johnny Depp, Marilyn Manson, all these people. We just ignore that because, I mean, I'll be honest, depending on who it is, I have a different opinion every time.
Yeah.
And that's not, and I don't know, that's the same thing. I don't know what the answer is, but I am glad this movie exists because it at least, I don't know, allows me to, I like being angry, I suppose. And
this is a good one for that. This one definitely made me angry.
This next one was fascinating. Kind of made me angry, just did a lot of things. HBO Max's Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yes, Judas and the Black Messiah is based on the true story of Black Panthers leader, Chicago leader, Fred Hampton, who was only 21 years old and was rising to become what J. Edgar Hoover, of all people, referred to as the Black Messiah. We need to stop the rise of the Black Messiah. The effort in Chicago falls to an FBI agent played by Jesse Plemons, who comes across Lakeith Stanford's character, Ron O'Neill, when he's stealing cars. And one thing you noted about his approach to stealing cars was that Ron O'Neill pretended to be an FBI agent in order to steal cars. And so he thought that showed a kind of ingenuity that he could use. And so he recruits Ron O'Neal to become a member of the Black Panthers and infiltrate Fred Hampton's circle and report back to the FBI what was going on. And O'Neal did that willingly. And it took this intense toll on his soul doing it. And what happens to Ron O'Neal years after this is that you see him at the beginning and the end of this movie conducting an interview with PBS talking about the things that he did. And on the night that interview aired, he walked into traffic.
Yeah.
He was so horrified by finally admitting what he did, he couldn't live with himself. And how FBI agents live with themselves at that time doing what they do, and Chicago police. And it's so bizarre to watch people being so overtly evil towards other people for such an arbitrary reason as race. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people were so... I don't understand racism at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I know that sounds very easy to say, but it just doesn't make any sense. When you're watching this take place and you're seeing these people get righteously angry over people just demanding to have equality and rights and not be killed, it just boggles your mind. It's the most basic thing that anybody could ever ask for, is to just please stop killing us. And this is too much for the FBI. And so they set about ending Fred Hampton's life at 21 years old because he was a really compelling speaker, asking people, asking the police and the federal government not to kill him.
That whole scene. I mean, this is not just him.
Yeah.
I mean, they come in like it's Osama bin Laden's house,
Yeah.
It's probably worse because they're not trained SEAL 16 members. They're just cops shooting blindly. It's a horrifying scene. And I mean, the whole movie is just, you're on edge the whole time, knowing, I mean, I didn't know the whole story, but I knew, nothing good's going to come of this. I mean, the title alone gives a lot of that away.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated the whole time, and not wanting it to go where it was going, and it's heartbreaking. But it's also amazing. I mean, you got three, again, I mentioned last week, John David Washington, one of my favorite actors. You got three, Jesse Plemons, oh my God, David, I can't pronounce their damn goddamn names.
Daniel Kaluuya,
and then Keith, I don't know his last name.
Whenever
they pop up in movies, all three of them steal their scenes that they're in, and so now you have them together, and they own the screen whenever they're on it. I mean, Jesse Plemons, he serves a purpose. He's not what he normally is, but he still serves a good purpose in this. But the performances are just fantastic, and
I love Daniel Kaluuya in this movie so much.
Oh, yeah.
He could radicalize people with those speeches. Like, I'm thinking there's people walking out of theaters after watching this just wanting to go to war. Like, that's just how compelling he is, and how compelling Fred Hampton was, really. That's why people were so afraid of him, because he was this intense, powerful, brilliant speaker who was an outright socialist and demanded socialist revolution, and scary. And the Black Panthers, hey, if you're going to continuously come at us with guns, we're going to get guns and defend ourselves. And that, when you hear right-wing militias do that, people go, yeah, okay. But suddenly Black Panthers are grabbing guns, and people are like, wait a minute here, you can't do that. The double standard is so disgusting. I mean, you have people who to this day will defend people like Cliven Bundy, but Fred Hampton, no. The Black Panthers, those guys were terrorists. Why? What was different? They were being hunted and killed by police, by the FBI, by just white people in general. Why shouldn't they have gotten guns and just fought back, or at least defended themselves? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not better. You know,
Yeah, it's not.
I don't know but it is a must see movie. I actually my daughter's studying the Constitution. She has a test this week, and I mean this is later on, obviously, but it did, it was interesting to her because she's kind of going through all this, on a different level.
Right.
But I don't know, it's on HBO Max, and I highly recommend everybody checking it out.
It's fascinating because J. Edgar Hoover was still being venerated in history books when I was in high school, and that's
Oh yeah,
less than 30 years ago. And he was being talked about as a hero, and he was not a hero. He was never a hero. He was an evil, racist, disgusting human being who held this position of power through blackmail and blood, and was venerated for decades afterwards as this legend. Meanwhile, not one time while I was in high school did anybody ever mention the Black Panthers. Didn't come up once outside of a movie. And even then, they were never the main characters.
Whenever I knew about the Black Panthers, they're always a bad thing. They were a bad group. They were like linked up with like the KKK, like a terrorist organization. That's kind of how I always grew up learning about them. It wasn't until movies and shit, and just kind of general, social justice, if you will, that you start to kind of learn more about what was going on. You definitely didn't get it in school. I didn't really even learn. I knew the name Malcolm X, but it was all Martin Luther King. It was nobody else. That he was the face and everything. It began and ended with him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I'm glad to see things like this exist, but at the same time, I live in a small white town, and I get to listen to what other kids are telling my kids, and it's just like, wow, they're the same as. I don't even remember kids in my class being that bad. So it's just disappointing.
It is
not this movie,
but at the very least, for this moment in time, the name Fred Hampton is known to people, and it really should be. It really should be. People need to know what he did and what he said, and why, why he was killed. He was killed because of racism, just flat out disgusting, awful, inhuman racism.
That was it. Yeah, and on a just on a straight up movie level, you got the future of Hollywood in this movie. These guys are going to be around for a long time.
I told that story about Ron O'Neal because Lakeith Stanfield is absolutely incredible in bringing about that duality of Ron O'Neal. This very messed up kid who gets himself into this very strange situation, but he's sensing his own desperation and greed, and then you can see it eating away at him even at that time, and then he manages to live decades after this, and the greed that's all eating away at him all that time until finally in 89, that's when he died. And you can sense that that's where this is heading, even from the time period, the early 70s time period that this is set in. You can see him already beginning to rot away as a person, and that the way that Stanfield captures that with just his eyes and his manner is brilliant.
Well, they do a good job. Obviously it's true, but they do a good job of making you kind of understand why he's afraid they're going to kill him. He's got genuine fear, and it's like the real life version of like Leonardo DiCaprio's character in The Departed. It's that kind of only, that way. Only he's a bad guy.
Both sides are going to kill him. The FBI is going to kill him. The Black Panthers might kill him if they find out. At any moment, his entire life is on the line. Yeah,
it's intense and definitely worth watching.
And then you have that romance, that undercurrent of romance too, with Fred Hampton and Dominique Fishback's character, which is also based on reality. She was there the night that he was murdered, and that scene again. You mentioned it before, but just the mundanity in the end of just the decision: is he dead? Now he is. Oh God.
Yeah.
How do you abandon your humanity in that way? How do you do it? I don't understand it.
Yeah. Transition time.
Yes.
Select cities. French Exit.
Yes, French Exit is from Azazel Jacobs, who directed The Lovers a few years ago with Tracy Letts, really, and Deborah Winger, which is a really great movie. This one's even better than that. This is the best performance of Michelle Pfeiffer's career. She plays a woman who's married to a very rich man who dies suddenly and leaves behind this remarkable fortune, and she's not really somebody who knows what to do with money. So she just likes to spend it a lot. She likes to spend it a lot on her son, played by Lucas Hedges, who's just kind of this dreamy kid. He doesn't really grow up. He's just kind of floats through life with mom paying for everything, and she's happy to pay for everything. And they're just kind of two people who are very codependent. She essentially pays for everything because she needs his attention, and she thinks that paying for everything will give him her attention. And when he starts to fall in love, she actually becomes kind of threatened by that a little bit. But most threatening, though, is the fact that she's pretty much almost entirely out of money. She's run through their entire fortune. And so a friend of theirs who's also rich, a friend of hers who's also rich, offers her the opportunity to stay at her apartment in Paris after she sells all the things that they have left and comes away with maybe a couple $1,000,000 left. So she's going to Paris with her son, and they're going to live there until the money runs out, and then they'll figure out what to do. And where this goes from there is just really, really funny, really kind of weird and dark and strange. And there's a talking cat and a psychic who can talk to cats. And it's a much more grounded than it sounds, I swear. Lots of various different characters come in. There's this weird detective character who's brought in to find the cat when the cat goes missing. There's this neighbor who just kind of forces herself into their lives in France, who's also an American, and she just really needs people. And they're just these really little funny little incidents. Like they get invited to her house thinking they're going to a party, and this neighbor, and it's just her. And they show up, and it's weird and awkward, and Michelle Pfeiffer is just a complete bitch, and it's so funny. It's just completely over the top. I won't say what happens, but the punchline is just brilliant, completely unexpected. And then just the way they come together is this strange unit of people who keep bouncing through this apartment, and the whole thing has this timer going because she's got the stacks of cash in a closet, and every day she opens it up and she takes out a little more cash, and it's just winding down. And you're like, what are they going to do? And it's fascinating. That's like the ticking clock of the movie is what money they have left. It's great. And of course, Lucas Hedges just never steps wrong. The guy is just brilliant. And he has such a unique sensibility that he brings to this. He's just so playful and yet so dour at the same time. I love this movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know how I know this is a good movie? Because Lucas Hedges is in it. I mean, when you do these weird movies, which is all he does,
yeah,
how does one not land? You know, because it's so much if it's out of his control. Now, granted, he's always working with great directors too, but it's insane how he has yet to even miss a little bit.
It's remarkable, isn't it? It just every time the kid is great. I mean, with this and Let Them All Talk and Boy Erased. I mean, the guy just knows movies. He just knows what role, and he likes to just follow his muse, and he's doing that here. And this one just happens to have a cat with a ghost inside it.
All right. To All the Boys, Always and Forever, you actually watched this?
I did.
This is like the third movie in the series. Is that correct?
Yeah.
My daughter was explaining it to me. I almost watched it until I realized that, because my daughter was like, she was explaining it to me, and I'm like, you know what? Sean's not going to watch this. We'll just skip over this one. But nope, you saw it. So any good?
It has no right to be as good as it is. It's incredibly watchable, and you don't need to have seen the first two movies. They explain it all very, very quickly and to the point, and then they get on with their story, which is about the two main characters are splitting up. They're going to different colleges, and they've trying to deal with that alongside some slapstick humor and typical teen romance stuff. And the movie's energetic. It's got enough laughs, and like I said, I was impressed that they were able to tell me the entire story without me having to sit through the previous two movies. Like, I didn't miss anything. I didn't feel like anything was any of the maybe a couple of the things mentioned might land a little more if I'd seen the first two movies, but it didn't really matter. And I don't know, maybe that could be good or bad, but Lana Condor is the star, and she's really charming, and she's got a very unique energy, and I think that's what's driving this whole franchise, is just how unique she is. And seeing an Asian actress get this kind of role, which is not in any way specific to her race, is really nice. She doesn't have to. She's not required to do anything that's based on her racial makeup. It's just a straight ahead teen romantic comedy lead, and I love that. I love that there's just nothing made of that. It's rare, and that's kind of wonderful in a way.
Excellent. All right, I'll be quicker. The Map of Perfect Tiny Things. This is on Amazon Prime for free. Nobody that I know. I don't write down names of actors, so that's why Sean leads most of the time. But he did not watch this one. This is
forgot it came out.
The male lead. I'm gonna go guy and woman. The boy lead and the girl lead. They're stuck in basically a Groundhog Day scenario.
Yeah.
And it starts with the boy lead, obviously, because that's what we do with most movies. It's not as advanced as the one you just talked about. And he uses Groundhog Day to find a way to get out of the situation he's in.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. He comes across the girl lead who she doesn't want out. She loves it there because I don't know, well, they tell you why later on. And
so wait, is this Palm Springs?
It's not really. That's other than
okay.
Scenario. It's nothing like Palm Springs. It's really surprising how many of these Groundhog Day movies work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Really, all of them have kind of worked without being redundant, which is really weird. This is probably the worst of all of them, but that doesn't mean much because they've all been pretty good.
Yeah.
Palm Springs was great. Happy Death Day was great. I'm sure there are others, but this one is basically he just assumes, well, we're the only two doing this, so we might as well fall in love. She's like, no. And then, you find out that particular day, his mom had to go into work really early and works really late. So he hasn't seen his mom in forever.
Oh, wow.
And then her mom's on her deathbed. Like if the day ends, her mom dies.
Oh.
So that's really what it comes down. And again, it's not a great movie. It's sufficient, but it was surprising how watchable it was for me. But maybe it's because I don't watch crap like this most of the time, so it works.
Yeah.
But that's the Map of Tiny Perfect Things. The map comes because he draws a map of everywhere he's been. Every morning he gets up and he maps everything out, which again would take like 3 hours. So they just glance over that. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get to the fun shit. X. The worst name of a movie.
We're into the sex portion of the show.
Yeah, we're on the sex portion. Try Googling X, the movie, and finding it. Jesus Christ.
Oh, man. X is a little tiny movie, too. It's an independent film about a woman who runs something called the Foundation. It's supposedly a charitable organization that's under the auspices of her mother, who's a pop star who's kind of in recluse now because she's so slowly going away. She's got dementia. Her daughter runs this thing along with her best friend, and secretly the foundation is also cover for these overnight sex parties that they have at their mansion. So, once the squares drop off their checks and take off, the rest stick around and pay a little extra to have these sex parties that last all night. They all kind of hope that this girl, who you see in the poster, Hope Raymond, is going to be with them that night. She's the star of the party, but she never partakes of all the sexuality going on because she has a secret kink that she can't really tell anybody about, and it's her secret that she keeps to herself. Meanwhile, her best friend is this bisexual guy who's kind of all over everybody. He does all the sex. He's brought with him to the party this time a girl who they both went to high school with, who's now a cam girl, but she's pretending to be a teacher. Her cover for her boyfriend is that she teaches night school via webcam, but she's actually a cam girl. And this girl really throws Hope Raymond's character for a loop because because she might know what her secret is. And if she tells everybody, she's kind of worried that this girl's going to tell everyone what her secret is. Meanwhile, that girl is also dating the guy that she had a crush on when she was in high school, Hope Raymond's character. So she decides to let this girl stay at the party, and if she'll come to the next party and bring the boyfriend, and then she can live out her true fantasy. Naturally, this doesn't go as planned, and things begin to unfold from there. And this movie is really interesting. Much more interesting than it has any right to be, because it's really low budget. It's not particularly well directed, but Hope Raymond is so interesting as an actress that I really just kind of dug into her. And the interesting thing is the cam girl I mentioned, she's actually starts the movie as the lead. And you think this is going to be this outsider coming into this insular world of over the top sexuality. And then it seems like the camera just goes, you know what? She's more interesting. We're going to go with her. You go do something else. And that girl, she's still in the movie, but she moves to the background so quickly. And you're suddenly with Hope Raymond's character, who would be like the villain in this movie otherwise. And she is more interesting. And it is if the camera just in the movie just kind of went, she's far more interesting. We're going to go with her and you can fuck off. And I loved that idea. I don't know if if it was intentional or incompetence or what, but I really liked the choice. And it really gave this movie an extra kick on top of, it's unfortunate. IMDb goes ahead and just tells you what her kink is, which really sucks. Because I think it's not necessarily a big reveal, but it's a secret enough that it's necessary. I think that people probably shouldn't know going in. So I'm not going to say what it is, but I really like the way this movie plays with the ideas of sex and sexuality and bisexuality. The reason why her best friend invited this cam girl to the thing is because he thinks that our main character, Hope Raymond, Christian, is into girls, which maybe she is, maybe she isn't. We don't really know.
Yeah. I'm of two minds. I say that a lot. On one hand, I like the independent spirit of the movie. You just don't get movies like this, from studios at all. On the other hand, it's a complete mess. I mean, I lean more on the incompetence level. I mean, I get what you're saying, and
yeah.
But because of that independent spirit, it becomes a watchable movie and you follow along. But it wasn't like knocking me out, knocking out my socks off or anything like that. It was just kind of a young director who doesn't really know what they're doing, and it's just kind of a mess. And the performances are good. Like I said, the spirit behind it is fantastic, and that's what really carries this movie. But otherwise, I was just kind of like, I think you called it campy and in your review, and I don't know that it was meant to be. It definitely comes off that way, but that's what low budget sometimes does, and you can't really help it. And it's not, it's not anybody's fault, just the lack of money.
At times it's very much like kids playing at Eyes Wide Shut, which I kind of dig that.
And that's right. I both dig it, and at the same time, it depends on the day, but it's just kind of like.
But what hurts this movie now, in retrospect, is that we saw a very adult movie about sex. After as our classic is a very smart adult film about sexuality that's very confrontational, whereas this movie is kind of tee-hee.
And I think that's what it is. I mean, maybe that. I mean, I saw this before I saw our classic, but at the same time, I just kind of the whole
Same.
time I felt like the tee while I was watching it, and I get why you dig it, and I love the independent spirit behind it, which is why we can look back at a lot of these classics and appreciate them so much, because that just lacks in most movies we see, although not this week apparently. but uh, but yeah, that's X. You do kind of find this figured out fairly early on, about the
Yeah,
halfway
yeah.
point, maybe a little before that. But I agree. I'm
It
surprised it was right on there on IMDb.
it's certainly, I mean, it's not something that any other movie character has ever admitted to being into.
Yeah, and the way it plays out is, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I'll give it that. Yeah, I mean, if you can find it,
Good luck.
you gotta search through all the X-Men movies, Malcolm X, X Files, anything with an X. There's also other movies called X. Lots of them.
You might just be better off searching Hope Raymond.
Yeah, that's the only way you're gonna find this thing. Even this picture,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying don't see it. Anybody who wants to try something on an independent level, I think deserves a shot, and it definitely succeeds in certain areas. So it is there to rent on Amazon. There's no I in threesome.
Wow, what a fascinating movie. So this is a documentary.
Not nearly as much fun as I was hoping.
No.
I was free. It's not the 80s. It's 2021. Never mind.
So the story here is that there are initially two people who are making a documentary. It ends up being just one of them, but two people are making a documentary about their open relationship before they get married. They are being essentially they live on opposite sides of New Zealand, and their distance creates an opportunity for them to kind of explore their sexuality in ways they've never done before. And so they decide to have this open relationship where they're allowed to have sex with anyone that they want, as long as they tell the other their couple, the other person in the couple, about it. And they think this is brilliant. They think that they're on to something that nobody's ever thought of before. We're gonna be the first people to have a really open relationship, and then we'll get married, and that'll be it. And the naivete of that is so smartly played. It really is, because they're so naive at first about how this is going to go. And not to say that every open relationship fails, but this one was pretty clearly going to be a failure, I think. It just felt that way right away. And mostly because he doesn't see, he thinks he's this big, bold sexual guy. I mean, he's even sleeping with men. He's got some types of open sexuality, but in the end, there still seems to be this part of him that just wants to be in this couple. And I don't sense that with her as much at all, but then you find out why at the end, why that is. And it's such a great twist.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Probably for a documentary to have a twist like that, play out like Sixth Sense or something. I mean, it really is that level of a twist.
I didn't see it coming.
No.
As much as I saw the end of their relationship coming, I didn't see that coming at all.
I mean, it was a little frustrating that, that, I don't know. I'm glad he went where he went with it, because, in the end, the reason it failed is because he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah, but he admits that, though.
Right,
he shows
and I'm glad
he goes into that.
And I'm glad he went there. That was because he's really given threesomes a bad name in open relationships. Because that's not why it failed. It failed because of him. Yeah, and I think that's part of where the no I comes from, because he was definitely being an individual throughout this whole thing. But it is another HBO movie it's pretty fascinating. Lots of uncomfortable, awkward nudity.
Yeah,
including
a confrontational sort of sexuality to it that really does put you in the position of the awkward position of having to kind of try and place yourself into their space. And I something I found out about myself and watching these movies, and I've known this for a while, but it's just kind of something that just occurred to me as I watched this, is that I don't understand the compulsion of sexuality. Like, I don't understand the constant need for sexuality. You know, I enjoy sex. I like sex. I've had sex. I don't understand the male desperation that sex must happen every day or every other day. I don't get it. And it kind of seems like the people in this movie they're like, the men especially have this, where they just want sex all the time. And that's like, I've never understood that as a definitive drive of your entire life.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar to any other vice, though. Once it gets like, once your mind goes somewhere, it's hard to bring it back, and I mean, I can understand how it gets there, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, at one point you get to see a guy get an enema in a bathtub. Never thought I'd see that in a movie. Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
you don't want that to happen during a threesome. I get it. You want to be as clean as possible before the big threesome with your new girlfriend and your fiance.
Right, but I mean, I never did that.
The compulsion for the enema, I get. I mean, that feels great, but no, I'm kidding.
Never had an enema. Yeah, but it is. I mean, it's definitely interesting. It took me 2 sittings to get through it.
Really?
Well, I started watching it late at night, and it wasn't, some sort of sex comedy. So I was kind of like, all right, I'll get to this later. But it definitely is fascinating.
Oh man, I got to take this seriously. I'm going to sleep.
Right. But once you get about halfway through it, you start to get more interesting. And then when it fucking turns on you, the last quarter, maybe a little even less than that, it turns into something else, and it elevates in terms of how good of a documentary it is.
It's very raw and
very honest,
and confrontationally so. Yeah. And good on him for going there. And that's really impressive.
So we've been shit on HBO Max, coming into this week. They knocked it out of the park this weekend.
Yeah, they did.
All right, let's go to our classic. Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice.
1969, directed by Paul Mazursky, one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite movie of all time. Interestingly to know. Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice tells the story of 2 married couples who are best friends. Robert Culp and Natalie Wood are Bob and Carol, and we meet them as they're going to this retreat in the California mountains. That's one of these. I guess it's a fad at the time. And there are a couple of movies about this. I actually watched a movie a few weeks ago for Kino Lorber called The 300-Year Weekend, which was about a 24-hour psychotherapy session. And this was kind of a thing that was a fad in the 60s and 70s, where you would go away and you'd spend an entire day being as confrontationally honest as possible with a psychiatrist who would be in your face trying to make you say everything that's in your head, in this radical honesty sort of thing. And they engage in this, and they have this experience that opens their eyes to this whole new world of being as completely honest with each other as possible, to the point where they start to get into very sexual honesty, where he admits that he had an affair. Robert Culp does. And Natalie Wood, instead of being upset with him, accepts that and is actually impressed by his honesty and moved by his honesty. And then she has an affair, and he arrives and she tells him what happened. And he initially kind of reacts like you would normally, and then he kind of comes around to the idea, and he accepts it. And maybe, see, that's the thing, is that there's so many little subtle details in this. So they're becoming this more open people. They're being very radically honest with each other and with everybody around them, including their two best friends, played by Diane Cannon and Elliot Gould, who are a much more traditional couple. And when they find out that their friends have been cheating on each other, but they're staying married and they're saying how happy they are, they're very thrown by this idea. And when it just keeps upping the ante from there to the point where you see this scene in the poster where it looks like something might happen between all four of them. And what happens is so much more interesting to me than what's implied. This movie is brilliant. It's confrontational. It's in your face about honesty and sexuality, and really just very adult in that conversation, and really putting that conversation out into your face about where do you stand when it comes to monogamy or hypergamy or just sexuality within a relationship. And it confronts notions of just what is moral and what isn't, and how individual that type of thing is. And I really was just so impressed by just how straightforward this movie is, and in being as radically honest as it is.
Yeah, I was up until the very end. I kind of rolled my eyes because I mean, I understand you think it's more interesting, but it's also the all you need is love. You know, just kind of they established enough that if they had done more, I would have bought it and I would have been fine with it, and they could have remained friends, and there would have been no issue with me either way. I don't know how you end the movie after that. You're not just going to show some big orgy and then go, all right, movie over. So in a way, I kind of find it to be a cop out because it's less adult by doing what they did, you know, because he established some. I don't know. I bought into it, and then it was just kind of like, yeah, we all love each other. So we don't need the physical stuff. The end. And
The way I saw it is, I'm not sure they're going to stay friends. I'm not sure about that. I just don't know. Because I think what's happening here is that for all the openness of Robert Culp and Natalie Wood's characters, for how radical that they think they are transgressing upon their closest friends, the people they claim to care about. They're transgressing upon them. They're almost not forcing their sexuality upon them, but kind of in a very, kind of a confrontational way, pressing their particular approach to life onto their much more, staid and much more traditional friends. And the way and it really is almost, not violent, but like just the way they do it is it's very uncomfortable, to the point where Diane Cannon almost appears to break emotionally before this scene, and is sort of giving herself over to this idea because she thinks she has to for some reason. And I thought for myself, I'm not sure this relationship actually survives this situation.
Well, I mean, but when they go to that final, when they're all going to see Tom Jones or whoever, or Tony Bennett or whoever they're going to see, no one intended on an orgy. She brought that. Diane Cannon's character did. They're not forcing their sexuality on them. I mean, ultimately they are, but they're forcing their honesty violently on them, and it just happens about sex so much. And Diane Cannon's character has to deal with the fact that she can't make everybody live life the way she wants to, and she struggles with that the whole movie. And in a lot of ways, Elliot Gould and Diane Cannon's characters steal the show, and most of the time they're more entertaining, they're funnier, they're down to you're supposed to be more like them because Natalie Wood and Robert Culp are just so out there. But you see her starting to understand that she can't worry about what other people are doing, and I don't believe anybody had any intent of anything happening that night, and she kind of convinces them of it more so than is broken. I don't know. That's how I read it, and they all go to the show afterwards, and I don't know. I think they stay friends, and they just realize they love each other as friends so much that they didn't need anything more. And I think that's fine. It works, but I also think it could have worked either way. I mean, I guess it's just an easier way to end it, I guess. But I don't know. I didn't feel like they established enough where they weren't going to be friends.
Yeah.
It definitely is an
I'm
awkward moment.
I'm inferring that just based
Oh
off of
yeah.
just how
Well,
uncomfortable the scene is.
oh yeah,
And,
I'm inferring my thing too, or everybody's inferring. But yeah. But
I liked just how straightforward it is, how confrontational it is about the notions that that Natalie Wood and Robert Culp's characters are pushing against, you know, the traditions of a society. You know, we're talking about kids of the 50s who are really pushing against the morals of the time, and also you've got kind of middle-aged people who are trying to be hippies in a way, and that that very sort of desperate quality that both of them have, especially Robert Culp has, about trying to be younger than he is, came through to me. And you know, the much Elliot Gould and Diane Cannon's characters are much more self-possessed, but at the same time, they've got their own more relatable issues. That lengthy scene in their bedroom is fascinating. What a great scene! The back and forth, the conversation that they're having about, she's like, so you just want me to lay here and you just do what you need to do? That's okay with you? He goes, yeah.
you would want me to do anything against my will? Well, no. the cadence back and forth between the two of them is it's so, for lack of a better word, poetic. It's just entertaining the way that it flows. Yeah, I mean, one thing that this movie does is makes you look back at like your parents and their friends. Or at least I did.
No, don't do no. God, I just had this flashback to that classic Bill Hicks bit about how the American flag should just be everyone's parents having sex. Nobody would look at the flag. Nobody would salute. Oh God, yeah. That's the thing is, but my mom was like in her early 30s in 1969. So I mean, she's right, early to mid 30s. She loved Natalie Wood. She was right in the age group as Robert Culp, Elliot Gould, and Natalie Wood and Diane Cannon. So now, thanks, Bob.
No problem. I mean, my dad was 17, but I mean, I know they had a pool and they had pool parties, and I'm sure they went skinny dipping and stuff. But I was just a little kid, so I don't know.
I'm loath to say this, but I can recall being 6 years old and seeing that big bowl of keys. I don't know. I thought it was just because they didn't want anybody to drive drunk, but I don't know.
That was supposed to be my 40th birthday party. That never happened.
Oh my God. I don't know. I'm a traditionalist, I guess. I don't think I could ever do anything quite like the way that Robert Culp and Natalie Wood do, or the guy in There's No I in Threesome. I don't have a problem with the idea. Like I think everybody thinks that they're open enough and mature enough for the notion of a open relationship, but it really is a very individual notion, and really comes down to how you're grown up and how you feel about sex, I guess. And like I said, I don't have that compulsive like desire to have sex constantly. Not that I don't enjoy it. I just don't have that, like,
right.
I'm not addicted to it, I guess. And I've never understood the need to cheat on somebody that some people have. Like I can't keep having sex with the same person of all time. Now, you've been with the same person for a number of years now. Does it still cross your mind occasionally what it might be like to be with someone else?
I'm just thinking of all my friends' wives right now. No, I mean, I have a couple of friends that listen to this. This would be interesting.
So, Bob, here. Which of your friends' wives do you want to sleep with?
Want?
Oh my!
I mean,
Bob and Lindsay and
yeah, part two. Let's see here. How do I get back? It's like I could never. I'm not a. Let me rephrase this. I'm not the jealous type, but at the same time, I know damn well if there's an open relationship, she's just fucking a bunch of guys, and I'm like, so how'd that go? You know? So, it doesn't really benefit me much anyway. So,
yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I'm not. She's way more fun than I am. I guess she's more willing to pull her boobs out or something like that at a party. And I don't care, that's kind of, I find that fun, I guess. So I don't, but I mean, I don't know. If the situation ever happened, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm not really sure. I'm not really.
The weird thing I've observed, and not you and Lindsay, I don't think, but at least with so many of the married couples I've met, so many of them are so miserable that I wonder if maybe if they just were open, then maybe they might be less miserable. I don't know. There's so many miserable married couples in the world that at least in my experience, I've got a lot of friends and a lot of them are married, and the happiest one is the guy who's divorced, who's very happy now because he's not married anymore.
I mean, it all comes down to honesty, really. Honesty and communication. If whatever, as long as you're honest with each other and you communicate with each other, you really should be able, and it doesn't have to pertain to sex, it pertains to everything.
Right.
And you got to know what your partner likes, and you got to be okay with that. And that's what it means to be married, I guess. So I get why it can be miserable, because sometimes I'm not miserable by this, but I just don't watch sports anymore. I mean, I watch it on occasion of the Super Bowl, the World Series, but I used to watch sports every morning. I still follow the Cubs, but if I miss a game, I miss a game. Part of it's due to my job I chose as well. But she's just not into sports, so I just kind of gradually went away. But I could see certain people not being able to live like that. It's and it's, so I get it. But
I think just some marriages, maybe just the marriages I've observed, are just trying to stick a square dick into a round hole.
But even if you go back to the movie from last week, Malcolm and Marie, I mean, sometimes those relationships have so much passion in them, but there's also so much toxicity as well. Mm-hmm. So, is the passion worth it or not? You got to decide that for everybody's different and what they want. And I don't know. It's, I get how something like this could work. And that's all I'm going to say.
I just think this movie is very bold in its honest portrayal of these characters, and it's also very funny.
Oh yeah, consider the possibilities. All right, the best movie of the week. Sounds of the Lambs turned 30.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jodie Foster is touching everything. She was actually in the TV adaptation of Bob Carroll, Ted and Alice on CBS, and she was obviously in the Mauritanian earlier, and now here she is in the lead here of Silence of the Lambs, which is one of the best movies of the last 3 decades, undoubtedly, maybe of all time. It's just this incredible thriller with these amazing, indelible performances that just ring so true, especially when the direction of Jonathan Demme is so precise. The first thing you see of Clarice is him establishing that she's tough. Right off the bat, you're just seeing her do this obstacle course. She's tough, and you need that grounding in who she is, that baseline of who she is for what she's about to go do. Because she's gonna show vulnerability, she's gonna show femininity. At the same time, she's got this baseline of toughness going through there that is kind of the underpinning of the character. And I really love that that's where we begin with her. And then she's brought into this case, Buffalo Bill, and her job is essentially to try and convince Hannibal Lecter to help the FBI find Buffalo Bill. And the relationship that she develops with Hannibal Lecter is one of mutual respect, and that's a fascinating dynamic. The way that they develop it, the back and forth, the clever dialogue, the way that he's toying with her, but then he comes to kind of respect her. It's so well played. The two of them, the back and forth is just so good. It's so grabbing. There's not a line out of place. Not a even the Miggs stuff doesn't feel wrong, especially the way that plays out when you find out the next day that he killed him out of respect for her. Like that is, he just talked him into killing himself. Damn, what a way to establish a character and his weird sort of moral code. The little tiny details like that are just amazing, and they're there throughout this movie. And then you've got Ted Levine, who I spent the first 2 seasons of Monk just every time he came on screen because he played the commanding officer on Monk, the detective show, the detective comedy. And every time I'd see him, I'd just go, "I'd fuck me." Every time in my head, I couldn't get out of it until like 3 seasons into that show. He's just so incredible. He's
underrated.
Yeah.
Of how, I mean, you look at some of the best villains of all time, you think Hannibal Lecter, but he's fucking creepy. And like as creepy as it gets in a movie like this, I mean, he really has. His scenes are always parodied. Mm-hmm. He's so much more than that in this. Him being as terrifying as he is really makes this movie that much. Because I mean, Hannibal's done 3/4 of the way through, and then it's all Buffalo Bill.
Yeah,
and because of how creepy and terrifying he is, makes for the ending, the suspense that the ending has. He really is fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, and I know it's a controversial character. Some people see it as an anti-trans movie, which I understand. I understand where they're coming from on that. I know there's some dialogue that kind of tries to go away from that, which I think is appreciated, but also some people felt that was kind of tacked on to try and get away from that, even at the time. I still say that his struggle with his identity even comes through in just little ticks, just the way he talks, the way he interacts with Jodie Foster. He demonstrates kind of how he doesn't know who he is or what even his main compulsion is as a killer. And I thought that his battle over his own identity is so compelling, even in just the small bites of it that we get.
Yeah. I don't know. Anytime I can watch this movie, growing up, this was the one that was off limits more so than anything else, more so than Showgirls or any, whatever. Granted, I was a little older when that came out, but I remember my dad watching this and we couldn't walk in the room, and it just made it that much more mysterious.
Yeah.
And when I finally did get to see it, and how, it gets put on a pedestal like that, how do you match that? And, as a viewer, how does it live up to expectations? And it not only did that, it was even more so. And then years later, you keep going, it's still going to be as good as I remembered it. And it is. I mean, it really is. Even with everything that they did, Hannibal, Red Dragon, and this stupid TV show they're trying to force down our throat.
Yeah.
It's still, as its own thing, stands above the rest, and not without being ruined by them. I find that really impressive.
It's pulpy and it's incredibly well made at the same time. It's a mainstream thriller, and it's just an incredible film, and that's why it goes on and wins the Academy Award. And interestingly enough, I was about 15 when this came out. When I saw it win a bunch of Academy Awards, I said, "Oh, that must be homework. I'm not watching that." And I think I associated Anthony Hopkins with like Howard's End or something, and that was just forget it. No, or Remains of the Day, whatever it was that he was in by that point. So yeah, I was not excited to see this movie until I finally did see it. I don't know, 3 years after it came out.
Yeah, when I saw, I was like 11, so or maybe even 10. So Anthony Hopkins this is his first movie as far as I was concerned. So even when I go back and see him in something else, I was like, oh, he did stuff before this. He must have really struggled before he got this Sons of the Lambs. He was pretty old when that movie came out. But yeah, I love it. And that's what you're 100% right. It's pulpy and it's a great movie. And that sometimes really when you can combine those two, that's kind of my favorite thing. Gone Girl's a lot like that
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Fincher is the king of that when he not when he does it good. Seven, to a lesser extent, is like this. Uh, yeah, that's the perfect combination because then you still get that. I don't want to call it independent spirit, but I guess or that auteur uh, feeling. I guess between from Jonathan Demme that still carries this movie. You know, Gone Girl, Fincher carries that. That's what, and with that pulpiness, just makes it something special and kind of stand above the rest. For Pulp Fiction, obviously. Uh, I don't know. That's a good description of it because that's what's really neat about it and why it just kind of always hangs out there at the top. Near the top of my list of favorite movies of all time.
It's so precise too, and since this movie, other movies have tried to be as precise as this movie, and they fail so miserably, and it feels like it could affect this. But I still get excited when she's about to go to Buffalo Bill's house, and Scott Glenn is leading the FBI to this different spot, and the doorbell rings, and you're not sure where you're at. That shifting it from place to place is so precise. It's so good. Yeah, even every time I watch it, I can still get caught up in that moment of who's at what house when. It's really so good.
And it doesn't cheat to do that, and unless the movie would be cheating.
Yeah,
the way they do
I
it.
think Speed does something like that, and it feels like, I don't know, not nearly as smart.
Right. But yeah, I love it. What I don't love.
Movie I've seen more than Silence of the Lambs.
I mean,
but not for like 25 years. I haven't seen this movie in like 25 years, but I probably saw it more than I saw Silence of the Lambs because when I was 15 and 16, this was on TV all the time. And I think my sister and I watched it a bunch of times.
we let my daughter, I had to work all day Saturday, so we normally watch movies together, my wife and I, at night, and obviously she didn't have any interest in the swinger movies. All three of them, or she was interested.
Message, yeah.
Or maybe I just didn't bring it up. Maybe I need to try. You never know. She was interested in Judas and the Black Messiah, and obviously Silence of the Lambs she loves. But then she was like, "Well, we've been avoiding the kids all day long. We should watch a kids movie." So put fucking King Ralph on, and there's fucking nudity in this movie. They say fuck. I mean, I was just kind of like, holy shit.
It's been a while since I've seen this. I
mean, it's like thongs, but they're at a strip club. I mean, that's where he meets his queen.
The idea here is that he's like the 1,000th person in line for the throne, and everybody ahead of him is killed at one time, and so he becomes the King of England, right?
Right. And part of the reason for choosing it is my son gets afraid when anybody dies, even in cartoons.
Oh, gosh.
So obviously we couldn't watch Silence of the Lambs with him. And then right off the bat, thank God it was so cartoony that you don't even really know they die. I mean, you don't see them dead. They're just, all their hair goes up in the air and they're trying to do a giant family picture and they all get electrocuted. I mean, it knows it's dumb. It's fun enough.
Right.
How can you, I mean, I like John Goodman. Because he's Walter, you can always forgive a lot of things, but he's also, I mean, he's in a million great movies, so I don't want to just limit him to that. But
like, he's fat and he's got a burger and he's the King of England. What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Oh, he's playing rock and roll at a big social gathering. Oh, he's so out there.
Yeah, like the funniest scene they show in the trailer when he's knighting somebody and he cuts his ear.
Yeah.
And it's so funny we're not laughing when I'm describing it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's out there.
Peter O'Toole, so obviously drunk through the entire movie, just barely holding it back. You can sense, though, he was drunk the whole time.
This is the perfect movie to release the same weekend as Silence of the Lambs. Then there's Cadence.
Yeah. Charlie Sheen gets in trouble and goes to jail and ends up becoming friends with this group of black guys in military prison. And I think his dad is like the major. I don't remember. There's something about cadence and doing a big thing, and he's a white guy who has no rhythm, and he's got to develop rhythm to be in the cadence.
This looks like Hot Shots.
Sometimes you've got to stand out to fit in. Oh God. 90s needs to stop with poster quotes. They just need to stop putting things on posters. No taglines. Don't do it.
White men need to stand out. Nothing But Trouble movie. I don't know that I've ever seen, but people seem to like.
It's one of the worst movies ever made. It's completely unwatchable as far as I'm concerned. Aside from the appearance by Digital Underground and Tupac Shakur. Other than that, Tupac was a member of Digital Underground at the time. He's got a kind of a moment in here where they do a song, I guess. But yeah, this movie's awful. It's unwatchably bad. Dan Aykroyd and Demi Moore are a couple who get off track on the trip from New York to Florida. They end up in this small town that is run by this corrupt judge, played by Dan Aykroyd under a bunch of makeup. He plays like 3 different characters. They're all really gross. John Candy plays like 3 or 4 different characters. They're all really gross. John Candy has a female character that was trying to marry Chevy Chase, I guess, at one point. I don't know. This movie is, like I said, it's almost unwatchable. It's directed by Dan Aykroyd and written by Dan Aykroyd, and it's never funny for even 1 second. A lot of cocaine in this movie. A lot of cocaine behind the scenes. A lot of cocaine.
Shame. That's a shame. All right, that is our show. Next week, we've got the re-release of Ruby in Paradise, Silk Road, Test Pattern, The Blackout, Nomad Land is what I'm most excited about. Behind Her Eyes is on Netflix, and I think there's a movie called I Care a Lot on one of these platforms as well.
And we'll see how it goes on which ones we get to.
Right. Our classic's going to be Alex in Wonderland, directed by
Paul Mazursky.
Name. Yeah.
Who directed Bob, Carol, Ted, and Alice, who also directed Scenes from a Mall, which is 30 years old next week. Which is a bizarre movie that stars Woody Allen, but is not directed by Woody Allen. And Woody Allen plays a guy from Los Angeles.
Not like him at all. He should be in New York. Is Alex in Wonderland a swinger movie?
No, it's about a film director, I think.
Just kidding. Also, 1991, another movie called He Said, She Said. So, yeah, that's what we got going. We can play a quick round of Flick Chart if you have time.
All right.
Before my wife starts yelling at me. All right. What Hot American Summer, Lord of the Rings?
What Hot American Summer?
Sorry,
I
Josh.
don't like Lord of the Rings.
Neither do I. Animal House, Primal Fear with Richard Gere.
Primal Fear.
I'm not part of the cult of Animal House. I don't hate it, but I don't really care.
I'm always kind of surprised by how not really that funny it is.
What Dreams May Come, Red Dragon.
What Dreams May Come, because I hate Red Dragon. I think. I could be wrong. I could be thinking of the wrong Silence of the Lambs sequel.
Some of Edward Norton, if that makes a difference. Chinatown or The Mexican?
I was thinking about The Mexican last week because we had, the Julia Roberts movie where the Sleeping with the Enemy, and she does the thing. She does this. There's this specifically Julia Roberts thing that she does. If you ever see Julia Roberts hold a gun in a movie, she does this thing. She holds the gun like this, and then when she fires it, she just drops it like this. And she does that in both The Mexican and in Sleeping with the Enemy for some reason. I don't know.
Nice.
It's a long way to say that I'm picking Chinatown, obviously.
Agreed. Rain of Fire, Crazy Stupid Love.
I feel the same way about both these movies, so I'll say Crazy Stupid Love because they're both entirely mediocre.
I'll take that one anyway. Revenge of the Nerds, Paycheck.
I hate Revenge of the Nerds, but Paycheck is really bad, so I don't know where to go on that. Where do you think?
Where my quarters at? It's here somewhere. Go. And paycheck one. Kick-ass old school.
Kick-ass.
Yeah, I agree. I might not have a while ago, but when we revisited it, I still liked it, but I felt kind of ashamed. Collateral, Mighty Ducks 3.
Collateral.
Tough one. Wild Things, 28 Weeks Later.
For 28 days later, this would be very easy, but
yes.
28 weeks later is not nearly as good. Wild Things. For purely prurient reasons.
Yes. You should have added that to the show this week. Max Payne, The Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games.
Dude. Shrek, The Recruit.
Shrek.
Love Shrek. Chinatown, The Exorcist. God damn
it. Chinatown for me, obviously.
It's The Exorcist for me. Let me see if I can. Quarter disappeared off the table here.
He's like, I don't want to take part in this.
I mean, I don't really. I like how they spell Satan. Ooh, Chinatown wins. I mean, I love Chinatown, so I'm not broken-hearted or anything. Constantine, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Again, two movies I feel the exact same about. They're both pretty mediocre. Constantine.
It's Robin Hood for me. Just because of my age and
Kevin Costner's ass.
Always love it. And it won the flip. Little Mermaid, Hannibal. They just know we're talking about.
Little Mermaid.
Yeah. I remember liking Hannibal, but not understanding why. Eagle Eye, Corpse Bride.
Eagle Eye's not bad, but Corpse Bride's better.
Uncle Buck, Zodiac.
Zodiac.
Green Card, Deuce Bigelow, Military.
Green Card.
Sorry, my phone was ringing. You couldn't hear that, but the people on the podcast could. I think school might be canceled tomorrow. You said Green Card?
Yeah.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Space Cowboys.
Pee-wee.
The Martian, Shaft.
The Martian.
Iron Man 2, I Am Sam.
Oh, God, Iron Man 2.
The Adventures of Tintin, Munich.
Munich.
World War Z, Raging Bull.
Raging Bull.
Now You See Me, Under Siege.
Now You See Me, or A Knife Through Tommy Lee Jones' Skull. It's Now You See Me.
Well, somebody jumps off the tape. I agree. I like Now You See Me better. Imagine if the two had a baby.
Ugh.
If the two movies, I wouldn't really know. Galaxy Quest, Misery.
Galaxy Quest.
Star Trek, the motion picture, Catching Fire.
Oh, Catching Fire all the way.
Face
I
Off.
still have awful nightmares about that scene in the start of Star Trek, the motion picture. That's just that shot of the Enterprise that is just it started in 1978 and didn't stop until about yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching that as a kid, and you know how parents always say, somebody will grow up and they'll understand. I was so angry while sitting through that, wanting to watch something else, and my dad just be like, nope, I love Star Trek. And I just remember how that's one of those times where, no, I'm not going to grow up and understand what it's like to be a parent, or I'll understand where he was coming from, because that's just horrible.
It's just so dull. It's so dull. I don't care about your stupid ship. I care.
Would rather watch The English Patient.
Would rather watch The Remains of the Day.
Yeah. Really anything. Deuce Bigelow. I don't care.
English people counting matches. I don't care.
That is the most boring thing that
so dull.
This in the history of film.
Oh God.
And I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating that. I don't, but people love that fucking shit. I don't. Face Off and Disturbia.
Disturbia is an actually good movie, so I'll go Disturbia.
I wonder if Face Off will, when we get to it in 7 years, if it will be as fun as a lot of Nicolas Cage movies are now.
maybe.
Or as bad as a lot of John Travolta movies are. The Last Jedi, Risky Business.
I love you, Rebecca De Mornay, but I The Last Jedi is a better movie.
Yeah. I feel like me and you are going through it like that, and Josh. And ooh, this is fun.
Yeah.
Birdman or Chasing Amy?
It's Chasing Amy, but Birdman is brilliant.
I agree. It wasn't as tough like that. Star Trek Beyond, Robin Hood Men in Tights.
See, I can't remember what I feel about Star Trek Beyond, whereas I still laugh at Robin Hood Men in Tights. No, I don't know. Did I like Beyond? I don't even remember now.
I thought you did, but I don't remember.
Let's go with that one, just because I'm afraid of what Robin Hood is too.
All right. Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Dune.
Star Wars again.
I feel like Dune sucks. Johnny English, Megamind.
Megamind.
Fuck. Movies. Fury, Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2.
Alice in Wonderland.
Babel. Fuck Alice in Wonderland so much.
Curly Sue, what's up? Fuck.
That's a short cartoon, yeah.
Indian in the Cupboard, Notting Hill.
Notting Hill.
Fast and the Furious, Teen Wolf.
It's Fast and Furious for me.
I feel like flicking the coin. Gone Girl, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Gone Girl.
Born on the 4th of July or Splash.
Splash.
Inception, Lord of the Rings.
Inception.
The Strangers Play at Night, Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Definitely disappointing. Three Kings, The Dark Crystal.
Three Kings.
Rush Hour, The Whole Nine Yards.
The Whole Nine Yards.
City of God, She's All That.
Oh, could you find any two more different movies in terms of just quality and type? It's just so bizarre. City of God is a masterpiece. She's All That is, wow. Yeah, City of God.
One of these people involved in one of those movies went to WWE. Last one, Get Out or Say Anything.
Man, I love Say Anything, but Get Out's a better movie.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be tougher than it was, but nostalgia doesn't always win. All right, ready? What's the movies for next week? Patreon.com/criticspod, and then IHateCritics.net. Click on the TeePublic link up in the right-hand corner. Otherwise, we'll talk to you later. All right, see ya.
Yep, have a good one.
You too. Bye.